Concerned about cardiovascular health? We might have the answer for that. Hey, I'm Mike.
And I'm Twing.
Welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Fit, the podcast where we unpack the science of sustainable weight loss and fitness for those over 40. Today, we're diving into the world of cardiovascular health, specifically for those over
Cardio.
40, although it seems to be affecting people under 40 these days too. So, whether you're looking to get back into fitness or after a long break or simply want to improve your heart health, then this episode is for you. As usual, joining me is our head coach, Twain. And with his expertise in fitness and training, he'll provide us with actionable tips and insights to help us, you and me, on our journey. All good today, Twain? Looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, man. I always feel bad whenever you're doing the intro and then I accidentally like
Sneeze.
comment halfway. So I'm not sure if that would go up live. But anyway, yeah, cardio is really, really important. And it's definitely something that I think if you talk to me when I was 10 years ago, I probably would have given you such how important cardio is.
Yeah, it's true. There's some things that you only start to realize as wisdom starts to set in.
Yeah. And with age comes wisdom, hopefully, right? But wisdom is an intentional thing.
Yeah, not a given, but hopefully.
But it's funny also because like especially when we are younger and we're just starting out with like lifting and trying to gain as much muscle, we're always told, hey, like hey, don't do too much cardio, we're scared to do too much cardio
Yeah.
because you don't want to lose your muscle, you don't want to lose your gains. But honestly, like once you understand the science, that couldn't be further from the truth, man. Like you
Mm.
do need a decent cardio base to be able to kind of handle, life and just training, right? Like being able to train properly. Yeah.
I suppose there is a difference between, the people that completely focus on just building muscle and then those that are building muscle, but also taking it from a healthy lifestyle point.
Yes,
Mm.
definitely there is a difference, but I think the difference isn't as big as people think. Because like 99% of the population would overlap by that much, in terms of the cardiovascular benefits. Of course, if you talk about like taking muscle building to the extreme, like professional level IFBB bodybuilding, yeah, cardio really is just a baseline thing. And if you talk about marathon runners that are taking it to extreme, the world class levels, obviously building muscle is, something that's very distant from their peripheral.
Yeah. But again, I also find that, cardio is a tool. It's another tool in our little toolbox of doing life, if we can put it that way. And I feel like for some people, maybe for a lot of people actually, it gets a bad rap because when we talk about cardio in general, we usually only talk about things like HIIT, go and sweat and half
Mm.
kill yourself doing some kind of activity. But cardio is much more than that, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure we'll jump into quite a bit of that today. But perhaps we can just start this off with, okay, for those that might not, I don't know if there are people under a rock, but for those who are not quite up to speed of what cardiovascular health is, perhaps you can just give us a bit of a definition here, and then maybe also tell us about some of the risk factors if we don't actually take care of our cardiovascular health.
Well, cardiovascular is just generally the cardiovascular system, um, kind of helping your body, exchange oxygen and deliver oxygen to the rest of the body. So that's kind of and having good proper cardiovascular health is having a very efficient system that can continuously deliver that uptake even when you're doing high intensity activity. So so that's essentially what cardiovascular health is, right? Why is it so important though? Is because if you don't have a good cardiovascular system, you definitely run a risk of a lot of heart-related or heart disease-related kind of risk. Okay. Um, and I think a large part of that, the common ones, like lifestyle conditions like high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, you have even like just irregular heart rhythms. And if your heart cannot pump the blood properly and you can't function well, that's essentially The one major part, one major engine of your body that just can ultimately lead to you just dying.
The euphemism there, right? Just dying.
Yeah, I was trying to think of one, but like I just couldn't think of any.
Unaliving. That's how we say it nowadays.
But I mean, do they even censor podcasts that way?
I have no idea. All right. So the benefits of it is obviously not dying, right?
Yeah.
But I
No heart
find it's
attack,
also
no
it's the
strokes.
quality of
Yeah.
life, right? If you
Yeah.
increase your VO2, like simple things like climbing a flight of stairs, all of these are actually all affected when it comes, if your cardio has improved or your cardiovascular has
Yeah.
improved. You don't find yourself like lightheaded after climbing one flight of stairs
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah,
this.
that's really true. It's funny that when you say that, it reminds me of this my own experience with improvements in cardiovascular health. I do remember back when I was doing more competitive powerlifting, and I really neglected my cardio. I had a decent enough cardio base to be able to train very hard and very well. But other than that, for long distance, long duration, if I went hiking, if we did like hiking up the mountain, stuff like this, man, that was tough. And I remember going to Blue Mountains with my then it's my girlfriend, right now it's my wife, but we would do one of the Blue Mountains hikes called Wentworth Falls, and that hike has like really steep steps. It goes all the way down to the base of the mountain. And man, I can tell you, when we were ascending up, I was just dying. I will always remember that. I was just dying. I was like, oh wow, this is way tougher than it should be for somebody that is so into fitness. And since then, like obviously we've revisited that, but now that with my cardiovascular health improved, and I actually do enough cardio, to kind of keep myself healthy. We've done that hike a few times already, and now it's like, oh, it doesn't feel like anything at all.
Mm.
And it's so remarkable because even my weight is kind of comparable, between the two. Um, yeah, so it really does make a huge difference when you actually start working on it.
Mm. I can also share from my experience. When I was I think I was about 18 at the time, maybe just under, maybe call it 16, 17. We climbed in Cape Town. We have a mountain there. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, called Table Mountain. So we went and we climbed that, and oh, I was like climbing up, and then I'd come down to meet my parents and the other group, and then I'll climb further again. Then I'll come running back down and chat to them, and then oh, okay, let's go again, and so on and so on. Then by the time I got to the top, majority of them all climbed in the cable car, and they all went down. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna run down. So it's about a 3.5 hour hike up, and then it took me 1 hour to run down. And so I was fine. Like for the rest of
Yeah.
the week, everything I was no problem. My father also decided to come down, and wow, for like a couple of days thereafter, he could barely walk because his quads were just finished. Everything was just ow, 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 ow. And I remember I
Yeah.
laughed at him at that time, because this is just like, oh, come on, man, this isn't barely a climb. Let's go again.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I can't remember, I can't tell you exactly how many, but I think I was in my 30s. Go to the mall, and turns out that the escalators are not working. So you had to walk up the escalators. I walked up 2 flights of escalators, and I was out of breath from running up a mountain, running down a mountain, neglecting cardio for all these years and everything, just
Yeah.
climbing 2 flights of escalators, and I was out of breath. That I
It's
literally had
it's
to stand still and actually catch my breath and make sure I'm not dizzy.
you don't appreciate it until you lose it, right?
That's true. Very true. So for me,
Yeah,
that's
man.
like benefits that I find when I talk about cardiovascular fitness is yes,
Mm.
you get all the health benefits. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
The ones that we can spew what the doctor's going to tell you and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
But to me, it's about the quality of life. It's the quality of life.
100%.
Like building muscular muscle mass is going to help you with functional strength, like opening a jar and all these kind of things, picking yourself up, standing up, sitting down. But it doesn't help to
Even being
me.
able to pick up your kids,
Yeah,
carry them,
to
play with
me,
them, even house with them a little bit, the kind of thing,
correct.
right?
But it doesn't help running after them. You know what I mean? Like if they're like, oh, chase me. Okay, let me go catch. Not too long and you're like, so adding in that element of cardiovascular, it just gives you that holistic, you know, quality of life that you can look forward to.
Yeah. Oh, actually, when you talk about quality of life as well, I think that's one key thing now that more than ever, I think it's very, very important for a lot of people. Because if you have good cardiovascular health, your stamina is so much higher. And for a lot of people nowadays, people like to take trips, right? They like to take holidays. So I know so many of my friends, they like to go on trips and stuff. And I recently just came back from a holiday in Japan and Korea. And those are countries, right? There are a lot of these kind of countries where like you can only truly appreciate it and get the full experience if you walk around everywhere.
Mm.
And so I have clients that like for them when they first come to me, they're like, oh man, I tried to go on this holiday and then I will walk for an hour or two, but after that I need to sit down and take a break because my legs cannot take it. And I'm like, what? Like think about that, right? You travel all the way there, you spend all this money, and you can't fully experience the place. Like that's that's not great, right? Um, and so I think one of the underrated aspects to just being cardiovascularly fit and then also having a good strength base with this combination is just that increased stamina to be able to just keep walking around everywhere. You can clock 20, 30,000 steps a day and you'll be like, cool, I'm fine. My body can handle it kind of thing.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
yeah.
Because
I'm,
we
I'm,
also
I'm,
we get
I'm
so how should we say accustomed to sitting in a car, driving from
yeah,
A literally into B, never mind to B.
yeah,
And then we go walk, buy our stuff wherever we want, come out, and off we go again.
yeah.
Mm. But you talk about traveling like that. I saw the videos on TikTok a little while ago. I think it's this place called Fanjingshan or something like that in China. Have
Hmm.
you heard of it?
No, not,
Right.
not,
So
not really.
it's a temple,
China's
but
huge, man.
it's in the mountain, right? It's in the mountains. So I think it's called
Uh,
the Temple in the Sky or something like that. And to get to
oh
the
yeah,
temple, it's
I
like
think I've
8,000
seen that.
plus steps.
Yes, 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 yeah. I think I've seen that one.
So I saw the
And I
video of the
see,
people where they're coming down, and it's
yeah.
like their legs are all wobbly and they can
Yeah,
barely
yeah,
walk.
yeah. I think I've seen that video. I've seen the exact video.
So I was telling my
Oh
wife,
man.
like, I'm not so keen to go to the temple itself, but I'd love to go and try these steps and just see how far I can get.
Yeah, I think that there are a few, right? Like these kind of really high up in the mountains, kind of ancient sites to kind of go and see. And
Mm,
then and that's really the thing, right? Like that's why you have to stay fit. That's why you have to keep this vessel going, you know.
yeah. So with that, let's talk about some of the things that we can do. We have the usual, right? Whenever we talk about cardiovascular, like if I go and
Mm.
I tell people, oh, you must start doing cardio, the go-to that they'll think is I must go running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I must do like HIIT or just any other type of maybe aerobic activity. Um,
Yeah.
some would think, okay, swimming is still a cardio, but those I think are the gist of it, really, that most people will think when you tell them, okay, you need to do cardio.
Yeah.
But it's not true, right? That's not the only cardio that we actually have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like the reason why those are popular is just because those are some of the modalities through which it's easy for you to tax the heart without like your muscles kind of giving up first. Because while you can do hit and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of like halfway cardio, but also halfway muscular, but it's not really either. So I never really been a huge fan of that for those reasons. But that being said, I think for the average person, hey, if you enjoy it and you're listening to this and that is something that you can actually like look forward to and you enjoy it and it's what gets you out off the couch and getting some exercise, and then that's going to be 10 times better than not doing anything, right? But in terms of cardio as well, I think a underrated one that people don't think about is just brisk walking.
Hmm.
Just like literally going out and just trying to clock as many steps as you can. It's not the most intense. Sometimes, like you just walk until maybe it feels like you are, just kind of walking towards the bus stop to try to catch the bus. And there's some sort of pacing around that kind of intensity. Maybe you're breathing a little bit, and obviously, if you're in Southeast Asia, tropical climate, you're definitely going to be sweating quite a decent amount from the weather, more than anything else.
Yes.
And it might seem so easy to do, and like it might not have any effect, but the truth is, it's actually one of the most effective ways to kind of get in a decent amount of like cardiovascular fitness and stimulus so that you can actually build that cardiovascular fitness.
So people will usually say, okay, walking, maybe I can try this, but
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do so. So what are your thoughts for that?
Well, a lot of times when we talk about walking as a form of cardio, right, we start to look at it more as um, I would say almost non-exercise related activity because you're trying to double it up into other things, right? You're not just going out to walk for the sake of walking. Although even if you do that, I've had clients where as part of their nightly like wind down routine, post dinner, they always go for a walk. Could be 15 minutes, could be 30 minutes, depending on the individual, depending on what's the purpose of it, right? But a lot of them use that walk as a way to wind down for the day, to mentally kind of reassess the day and just kind of be with their own thoughts. And it really does serve that purpose. It's kind of like a meditation, if you will. Um, and I think meditation, a lot of times people, when you say meditation, it conjures the image of somebody sitting on the floor, cross-legged, lotus position or whatever. Then yeah,
Um,
this is going on, but that's not really it. Like meditation is just kind of, I guess, being able to observe your thoughts and just kind of let it flow and kind of, yeah, I think kind of like center yourself to some degree, by observing your thoughts and just letting them flow so that you don't interrupt yourself, so to speak, and you reduce all the other like unbalanced stuff, right? So I think walking can serve a lot of double purposes where you kind of double it up with other things. Some other options where I have clients do is they buy a walking pad, and if you have a standing desk, you could do like um work at your standing desk while on the walker. And yeah, and you can just clock steps that way. I have one client, she clocks 15,000 steps a day because she's always at the computer, she's on meetings, she's doing stuff, typing out emails and stuff. And she's at the computer, but she's also always walking. So she literally does like maybe almost 3 hours of walking a day,
oh,
just doing that. And so she easily clocks 15,000 steps. And then aside from that, she also walks to the supermarket. She walks, everywhere around her
mm.
estate. Where she can, where she can afford to, she will walk to and fro. And even little things that you can do just to kind of get started as well. It's just simple things like, they always tell you take the stairs, don't take the escalator.
Yeah.
Take the park as far as you can from the entrance so that you have to walk a little bit more. It's kind of small little things, right? Like what are some of your little hacks for getting in more steps then?
Those are exactly what I do. For those that have been listening to our podcast, they might know that I've been doing this little experiment of just upping my walking. So
Mm.
I was averaging about 4,500 steps a day, which is quite sad, I know. But it's the usual, executives, we get stuck into work and then nothing else gets done. So
Yeah.
I purposely said, it's like, okay, I wanted to just try for 1 month, one period, um, just walking. I just wanted to increase my steps and see what was the outcome from this. So some of the things that I did is exactly like what you say. Like we have a mall here. For me to walk from one side of the mall to the other side of the mall is 1,000 steps, right? So we have a store that we'll buy like groceries and things on one side of the mall. So then what I do is I park on the other side of the mall. So that clocks 2,000 steps just to and from the store. And then walking around the store, you can maybe add on another 2 to 500 steps for the actual shopping itself. So just from that little step trip, I've already clocked like 2,500 steps, call it. Then it's like similar to what you say is instead of taking the lift every single time, try and take steps where I can. So I live in a condo. I live on the top floor. And so there's a few times that I've tried to do the 23 flights of stairs. And when I started doing it, I can tell you there was some stars that were being seen during the day from the dizziness of my walking. But
Amen.
getting near the end, it was actually becoming quite bearable, and I found like, oh, I'm at floor 18 already. Okay, this is going quite well. And so from doing that, I upped my steps from 4,500 to 10,000 steps. And just from doing this walking, I've lost 3 kilos in a month. So I'm not sure what that is in pounds. What about 7 or 8 pounds? Um, so I thought that was quite commendable because not changing my diet, not changing anything else, just doing that. And so from the walking itself, I also find now, like as I shared, climbing the staircase, uh, when I got to about the eighth floor, seeing the stars, oh, the breathing is like crazy. The heart rate is, my heart just wants to jump out of my rib cage already. And continue like this. But I remember, no, not that one, but the one after that was also almost as bad. But that one I was climbing with my kids, so you know you can't show the kids now that you're actually mortal. Um, so you have to like, oh, come on, let's go, and they're like, okay, let's go, and you're like trying to keep up with them climbing up the staircase. And yes,
That's the power of pride, isn't it?
yeah, it's the power of pride.
Our ego, our ego and our pride can't let us show the weakness.
You still want to be a superhero to your kids because they're still at that age, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but yeah, so the walking is like I find all of that, and then I also did a quite a few. So what I would do is I would clock my steps on my watch, and if by dinner time I didn't actually hit my step count for the day, then I would be like your clients as well. After dinner, I would just go for a walk around our
Mm.
compound here, and it's quite nice because our garden is on the fifth floor, so it's quite high up already. So with the wind blowing in the evenings, it's actually quite a lovely walk that you can have.
Um,
Helps to
yeah, I mean,
cool
that
you
sounds
down.
pretty good, man.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty
So I also am in the camp of Twain. Um, well, probably not so much because he's the one that persuaded me to start doing it, but I never in my life viewed walking as cardio until I actually started working out here with
good. Mm.
Twain. Because to me, walking was a mode of transport. You know, you you
Yeah.
use it to get from A to B. That's all it was. I never actually thought that it could be a cardio because I was in the camp, hit training, running, all these kind of things. I must be not able to breathe. Then I'm only doing cardio. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. So that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons why I wanted to do this walking experiment because I myself also wanted to believe it. And so now I'm actually a believer. Yeah. But there's
Yeah.
also other things, right? Like cardio is not restricted to structured exercise. Cardio is
Meaning,
just exercise,
like,
right? So if you find something like if you like to play basketball or you like to play futsal or anything like
yeah.
that, you go and you do that for an hour to 2 hours, and that's
Yeah.
one heck of a cardio workout that you're going to get. But it's
Yeah, for
one,
sure.
and the
I mean,
best part about it, it's one
that's
that you enjoy.
yeah, and that's actually much better than your traditional hit style workout. That's more hit than it is than actual marketed hit classes are. Like if you go and play futsal, all the short sharp bursts and exploding, like side to side,
Mm,
dashing, sprinting short distances, things like this. Like that's proper hit. It's not as structured, yes, because the game itself is relatively random, but in that sense, though, they're having intervals of very high intensity work and then rest, and then high intensity work and rest. Yeah, it's actually much more keen to hit than
yeah.
any other forms.
So for
Yeah.
me, whenever I'll talk to people about these kind of things, and you want to advise them to do cardio, I'll always ask them, what sport did you play when you were younger? You know,
Mm.
why not try and join a league for that? Join a team and see if you can get back into something like that rather than now going out of your thing and trying to start to run 5 kilometers a week
Yeah.
or a day or however you want to do. Because the chances you're dropping out
I,
for
I,
that compared to actually playing a sport that you love, so much higher.
yeah. I would caveat that a little bit though and say like you have to be a little bit more realistic though with where your current fitness levels are because
Yes.
I do often see people try to get back into the sport that they're trying to do or they used to do 20 years ago, right? And then now they're trying to get back into it. And first session in, they go in and they immediately jump into like a game, a proper moderate game. Where and then what happens is their body itself is no longer in the same shape and at the same fitness, strength, mobility level that it was last time when they were actively playing it all the time, right? And when they were younger. And so they often get injured. So if you're going to go and play the sport, try to go into it at maybe a bit more of a lower intensity level. Like you don't necessarily have to go in and be, you know, like if
Messi.
you're trying to pick up tennis again, you don't have to go in and suddenly try to be like Roger Federer or something. Um, yeah. And the other part would then be, you probably want to then start like exercising towards that end of being able to get back into shape or get fit to play the sport. Sport is great for maintaining fitness, but it's actually not really good for creating fitness, believe it or not. Yeah, because it's not specific to fitness creation, it's specific to whatever the sport's main activities are. So if you're tennis, it's about, of course, your hand-eye coordination is running, being able to return the ball, right? Like that's the skill aspect stuff. The fitness, you actually have to go and work on it in a separate endeavor.
Yeah, it's true. Like
Yeah.
I could
I
go and
think some-
I do running and I can get fit at running, but
yeah.
then I jump onto a bicycle and I try to cycle, and the fitness is so different because the muscles being engaged, I assume, is different, and therefore the mechanics are different.
Correct. Correct. But then again, if you have like a general base, if you do just some
Yeah.
basic strength training, I'm not even talking about like crazy powerlifting or whatever. Just do some basic strength training, doing the stuff that we usually recommend people do as a starter. Yeah, you're kind of covering all the bases already. And then after that, just be patient and let your body adapt, as eager as we are to recreate a glory days kind of feeling, it's always good to just take a step back and say, hey, I'm not who I used to be at this point in time. So let me just start from there and build up. And you'll be surprised. Sometimes when you take that step back, you actually progress so much faster. And because now you have the benefit of your experience from your youth, you can actually be a lot more tactical about what you're trying to improve. And I think sometimes that learning curve seems to speed up a lot quicker. And people get even better results. They tend to surpass, like things that
Yeah.
they used to do even when they were young.
What I find is like when you do these kind of things, is there's no shame in joining the over 40 league. You know what I mean? Like if you go and you're playing futsal, don't go join the
Uh,
teenagers. Look for the guys with the bellies. Look for the the balding ones and go join them and in their play. And even if it's still too tough, then instead of playing striker, play keeper, in the
I'll
beginning.
change
And
the
then
change
as
the
you start building up, because I'm 100% with you on that, is you look for that gradual progression as you go along.
yeah.
There's no point.
I do I sorry, I do wonder though, if you were to join like an over 40 group, would that over 40 group actually like keep you from progressing? I mean, potentially. I mean, just playing devil's advocate here, right? Because a lot of times I see a lot of over like senior people, over 40 people. Example, they get together and do like a cycling thing. But
Mm.
actually, it's more about the social element and like after that, going out to eat and all this sort of stuff, than the actual like cycling. Although maybe cycling's a little bit more like the nature of it, it's there is a huge fitness element to it, right? There's a big nature of that. But let's say we just talk about over 40 futsal. I imagine the people that are playing over 40 futsal, they're just there to have a good time. It's like it kind of keeps me fit and all. So if you're just starting out and like you really want to become fit, do you suppose somebody that joins that would that be like a good entry point? And then they progress upwards from there and or would it be better if they actually join a level maybe above where they're at and then use that as something to pull themselves up towards, you
I
know?
think there's different types at every age group. Like
Mm,
I was invited by one of my wife's colleagues to go and join futsal, and it was all the older people. And then
okay.
from there we went and we also played some field football. And I can tell you, these guys were they meant it. When they played,
So they were serious
it was
still,
like a
like
serious
proper.
game. Afterwards,
Mm.
yes, there's a great social aspect. It's like we laugh about the game and all that. But while you're playing, whoa, it's just like what I remember when I was a kid. You know, the
Okay. Okay.
competitiveness is there, and nobody wants to
Yes.
lose.
Yes.
But obviously we're at a fitness level where it's comparable rather than trying to compete
Mm.
with the youngsters. So
Got
I
it.
think you're going to get different types, and it might be in your benefit to gauge which is which. Like maybe you can see, okay,
Uh,
this one is more tailored towards the actual football. This one is
yeah.
like in rugby we have this team. It's called a, in Afrikaans it's called a Kaas en Wijnspan. So directly translated, it means a cheese and wine team. So basically,
Oh,
they
okay.
they they come and it's just for the fun, you know. They're more focused on the drinks that they're going to have after the game
Yeah.
than the actual game. So you'll see all shapes and sizes come and play in that particular team. So you wouldn't want to look out for one of these kind of teams if you're serious about your fitness.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
but but you do get
I
the older
guess,
ones that do have more that are
yeah.
still focused on fitness. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is. It definitely makes sense. Look, I don't have experience obviously joining over 40 leagues or anything because number one,
soon,
I don't.
soon.
No, I mean to be fair, number one, I don't play sports. I don't really, I, I don't really like team sports to be honest because I don't like the idea that my success is dependent on other people. Um, so I don't know, man. But it's so funny you mentioned the cheese and wine team because I remember way back when I was still doing like Dragon Boat in university, we would see all the like other dragon boating teams from let's say different corporations, maybe like recreational teams, things like this, where they would really come together for that once a week on the weekend. And there used to be these like people called the British Dragons. So it's like all the British expats coming together and be like, oh, cool, you know, let's do Dragon Boat. But it really was beer and sausages after that. You know, the Aussie Dragons as well, right? They have this annual race that they do called the Auschamp, and basically it's like a 15-kilometer dragon boat race. So it's long distance. It sucks to train for, but when you win it and you when you finish it and you win it, if you win it, right, it feels great. So, um, but the highlight of that is after the competition, their big barbecue,
Ooh,
as much beer, as much sausages as you want, and
ooh.
like everybody just kind of hangs out and mingles. And every week you always see when the like British Dragons or the Aussie Dragons, they kind of come down and they end up before they even bring out the boats, there's already the guy that's setting up the barbecue pit. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, I told the missus that I'm coming down for Dragon Boat training, but really we're just getting rid of the guys. Uh,
Uh,
so
go,
funny though.
going back and just touching on, you know, um, gauging what is the league that you're about to join and making sure that
Yep.
you joining the right one. So in 2012, myself and two friends, we did this cycle where we cycled from Kuala Lumpur through to Phuket in Thailand.
Oh
And
wow.
so while we were busy training for that, in the beginning stages of it, where it was like, well, okay, we're still just cycling a bit. You know, if you hit like 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, you're already like, okay, this is tough. This is tough. There was a race that came up, and it was when we read the flyer, it was done as a fun ride where we could go and cycle on Sepang, the F1 circuit that we have here. And so I
Oh
thought that
yep.
would be a great experience. You know, why didn't we sign up for that? So two of us managed to sign up for it. And we took our bikes and off we went there. And we were waiting there for the everybody to assemble and to get ready to go. And we start seeing these people wearing their shirts, and one is like Team New Zealand, the other one is like Team Britain, and then Team this, Team that. We're like, did we come to the right place here? You know, because we're like Team Palookas, you know, we have nothing. It's like, okay. Well, anyways, it's going to be a good experience. And so on this particular day, I don't know, but the wind also just picked up. So I don't know if you've ever been to Sepang Circuit, but it's got this long straight in front of the grandstand, and then you take off from there. And then as you take off, this long straight, the wind was blowing in the absolute opposite direction. So you're riding into this super strong headwind right from the
Oh
get-go.
wow.
And so naturally, I expend probably 80% of my energy just working through this because I want to keep up with these people, Get to the end of the straight and I'm already like kaput. Go down, start going. And I don't want to lie to you, but I don't even know if it took one full lap. Actually, yes, it was. When I got to the to complete one full lap, they were lapping me. And I'm cycling,
Oh,
cycling. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm pushing it, I'm pushing it. And these people literally overtake me as if they're driving in a car. That's the speed. It's like, it's like, what the heck is this, man? And it's so funny because my wife was there at that time as well. And she was getting worried because she's seeing everybody cycle here and she doesn't see her husband. Where's the husband? Where's the husband? Finally, she sees me coming along here. And then they all come and they overtook me. It got to such a stage where they have like a health car that rides behind. And
yeah.
they also like, you sure you don't just want to get in the car? We'll drive you there. Oh, no, no, no. I want to finish this race. Oh, I'll cycle, cycle. And I got there. So it's a 10 lap race. But when the first one finishes, then the race is over. So these guys all finished 10 laps.
Okay.
I finished four.
Wow.
So it's knowing like, okay, maybe that was not the smartest choice. I should have gone and found a different riding club. But great experience though. Yeah. So we're looking at
Yeah.
finding the
Okay.
right one, right? Finding an enjoyable activity, but finding one that is tailored to your level at the current level, not your level 20 years ago. So find that. Then we want to look at gradual progression, right? So we want to see, okay, you don't want to stay there, but you want to try and improve a little bit more. Maybe you want to start adding in some strength elements, strength training in order to complement whatever sport that you're playing. Like you've shared before in previous episodes, where you had clients that have taken a love for tennis, and then
Yeah.
they started doing more strength training that were tailored toward them improving their game in tennis, right?
Yeah. That's
Well,
the that's it's kind of like they use the activity as the gateway, the kind of little gateway activity to get them motivated again to actually go to the gym or um and sustain that going to the gym, because then the gym, as always, the gym is essentially a tool, right? To kind of get you to that specific condition that you want to be in. So yeah, it's just kind of framing it that way so that it makes it easier for them to get to the gym. Because again, I think like what 90% of people probably, I'm just throwing this number out there, but like 90% of people probably don't really enjoy the gym for its own sake.
mm,
Yeah, so you know,
okay. So we find that gradual progression, we find the activity you love, do gradual progression, then start adding in an element of strength training to complement that particular activity that you're doing. What other advice would you give people that are looking to get into some form of cardiovascular activity?
uh, I think I would just default back to, just take stock of how many steps you're doing right now, embrace walking a lot more, and then just try to, no, even just play the game of like how many steps can you clock every day, right? And then what's your weekly average? And so like take stock of where you're at, because let's say if you're only doing 2,000 steps a day, hey, that's a really low hanging fruit you can go and pluck. You can go from 2,000 to like 4,000 steps with only about 10 minutes to 15 minutes of effort a day. It's not a lot to ask for like such a massive return, right? In terms of
Mm.
health. Yeah.
I think if I had to give one more advice from my side is I would say is try your best, your utmost to set achievable goals.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
when I started running again, my mind told me I should be able to run 5K. No problem. My body somehow did not agree. There was some kind of debate going on between the two of them. And yeah, it never ended well. And so because of that, I was a bit demotivated to go and run again because, it's like, oh, if I can't even do 5K, that's like the low bar, And so I
Or
was,
what seems like a low bar, right?
yeah, it's the low bar. It's like, oh, who wants to do running if you can't even do a 5K? And so it took me some time to wrap my head around actually, let's set it to 1 km, but we make sure it's 1 km with no walking.
Yeah.
And we finish that 1 km in a good time. And then that
Yeah.
became my goal. So then I started chasing after that. Then once I hit the 1 km, it's like, okay, now let's hit 1.5. And then from 1.5 to 2, and so on and so on and so on. Because I find like when you start setting a bit more of achievable goals and you start to celebrate those victories, like you actually tell people, "Oh, I managed to do it, man," and they also like, "Oh, well done, good job, let's go, let's push more," and you get those kind of people surrounded by you. The chances of you
Yeah.
actually progressing is much higher than if you join the cheese and wine team. If we can jump back to that. So
Yeah. Hey,
that's
but
that.
you know what? Some people just want to have their cheese and wine and then, do enough exercise to kind of keep the cheese and wine at bay, I suppose. Because some exercise do better than nothing. Obviously, it's
Mm.
not going to undo all the effects of cheese and wine, but hey, a little bit, it's really better than nothing. Good excuse, right?
Okay, I think that covers everything, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All
I
right.
think the
So
main message here is really just, guys, just do your cardio, just do it. Just go
yeah,
for it.
yeah. So
And it's much simpler to do than you think.
correct. And remember that not everything, every cardio has to be a hit workout or aerobic workout. Walking is also cardio. Playing tennis to a degree is also cardio. Futsal, cardio. Basketball, cardio. Finding something that you really enjoy doing and going with that. All right. So I think that's a wrap for today's episode on cardiovascular health. I think it's always good to say is that remember it's never too late to start taking care of your heart. And by incorporating cardiovascular exercise into your routine, you can improve your overall health and well-being, and hopefully by thereby improve your quality of life. So I would also employ us, if don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with friends and family. Until next time, stay healthy and keep moving.